Well, let me start by saying if I were the majority leader, we'd be on the Ukraine supplemental right now. It's been challenging to get our Democratic colleagues to do what I believe the Ukrainians need at this particular point. But where we've ended up is at $14 billion. In order to get to $14 billion, we actually had to prevent House Democrats from blocking loan guarantees to help Eastern NATO allies buy American aircraft with their own money, which shouldn't have been a problem. The House Democrats tried to cut the administration's request for security assistance by $300 million. In other words, it's been like pulling teeth to get out of House Democrats what the Ukrainians obviously need at this particular time. And we've been slow, much too slow. But the package, I gather, will be coming over from the House attached to the Omni. I think it's an important step. It needs to be passed, and it needs to be passed quickly.
Well, every dollar that is spent purchasing Russian energy is a dollar that is being used to fund Putin's war. And so the administration was right to ban imports of Russian oil and gas in this country. But there's an underlying problem that preceded this current conflict, and that is that the administration has, from the very time they took office, literally said no to American energy production. They took leases, oil and gas leases on federal lands, took those off limits. They obviously killed the Keystone XL pipeline. I think it was the first executive order the president signed when he came to office. All examples of this administration's hostility to traditional, conventional energy sources in this country, much of which we need right now. And I think we are all in favor of, trying to come up with solutions to energy problems that are cleaner and more efficient and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But for the foreseeable future, we're going to need liquid fuels. And so having an all-of-the-above American energy policy makes all the sense in the world. It's just amazingly ironic to me that we are taking Russian energy now out of our energy mix here in this country, which is about 3 to 4% of all the energy we use, at least in terms of crude oil imports. And but now going again hat in hand to other countries like Venezuela and like Iran, asking them to increase energy production because we're not doing enough to increase energy production right here in the United States. It makes absolutely no sense. And I would say to the president, why not American energy? Why Venezuela? Why Iran? Why can't we have an all-of-the-above American energy strategy that makes America energy independent, reduces the dangerous dependence that we have on some of these foreign regimes who are unreliable, and helps lower energy prices for people in this country? It's a simple matter of economics, and I just hope that the administration will find their way to do the right thing for American energy consumers, for our national security interests, for our economic security interests, and for America's energy independence. There's a solution out there. It's an American solution, and it's not only an American solution, it's something that could help so many of our allies around the world. If he would just open up oil and gas, these areas, federal lands, private lands, for leasing, if he would support pipelines in this country, which contribute to the infrastructure that helps get rid of the bottlenecks, the rail and truck bottlenecks that so oftentimes hamper the distribution of energy in this country and around the world. These are all American solutions to this challenge, and something that this administration can do, change in terms of their mentality, their policy, their decisions, and they can do it overnight.
As you know, a number of us were on a Zoom call with President Zelensky on Saturday, and we asked what could we do to help. And high on that list is to say, he said, stop buying Russian energy. Vladimir Putin uses energy as the cash cow that funds his killing machine. And up until today, Joe Biden has been an eager purchaser of Russian energy. This has played right into the hands of Vladimir Putin, starting day one of the Biden administration, killing Keystone, shutting down oil and gas leases on public lands, and as recently as this past month, blocking additional transport of American energy. So the people of this country have paid about $1 a gallon more per gasoline they were prior to this invasion of Russia into Ukraine compared to the day Joe Biden took office. So the president made his announcement today. The answer to Russian energy, Russian oil and gas, is American oil and gas. It's not turning to Venezuela. It's not turning to Iran. The reckless energy policies of this administration are dictated by the climate elitists who call the tune for the Democrat Party. And because of those policies, that's why one of the reasons we have 40-year high inflation right now in the United States. And it's why Vladimir Putin has had a cash windfall to help him fund his aggression. We need to reverse this. Now, it's not something we're going to be able to reverse overnight in terms of the threat to our own national security, but we're clearly not going to reverse it by looking to Venezuela or Iran. In order to reverse this, we're going to need a long-term commitment to producing American energy. American energy isn't only important for our security, it's also important for the security of the country. We are much better as a nation if we are selling American energy to our friends and allies than if we have to buy it from our enemies.
Well, the gas prices hit an all-time high today, $4.17 with the average in the country. Not a 20-year high, not a 40-year high, an all-time high. And they've been headed that way for every month of the last year. You know, the president's energy policies have produced exactly what those energy policies you would assume they would produce. Less energy, higher cost. Missouri has some of the cheapest gas prices in America right now, but the average is $3.60 a gallon. A lot of people where I live drive 40 or 50 miles one way to work. When it costs $75 to put $20 worth of gas in your car, or in a lot of places in America right now, over $80 to put $20 worth of gas in your car, that's money that you don't spend for other things. So finally, the gas prices, about 40% higher than they were a year ago, have caught up with the heating prices, which are about 50% higher than they were a year ago. And while it's important to deny money to Russia, you know, by the way, we have been buying from Russia about 830,000 barrels of oil a day, which is almost exactly the number that the pipeline from Canada would have produced every day. For some reason, we couldn't buy oil from Canada, but it was okay if the Russians were selling fuel to Germany, and Nord Stream 2 was okay the same week or the same time that you couldn't buy oil from Canada at a cheaper price from a known and consistent friend. It's a ridiculous policy. Obviously, we're supportive of the president's decision today. In fact, he had to do it before the Congress could beat him to it to get that legislation passed, in my opinion. But we shouldn't get lost in the energy discussion into, well, it's all about Russian energy, or we can solve this with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, or maybe we should just have a federal gas tax holiday. It's all gimmicks. It's all designed to draw attention away from the real problem. What was it that the former senator from Massachusetts said the other day? The energy czar, he hopes that Ukraine doesn't distract from their energy policies. What Ukraine really does is call attention to the results of energy policies that don't make common sense.
First, I want to share my condolences to the families who lost loved ones over the weekend in Iowa's tornadoes and devastating storms. Next, I want to, of course, pray for the people of Ukraine, and they are holding on. They are doing the absolute best they can in a very difficult situation as we are trying to navigate through the congressional process to provide them lethal and non-lethal and humanitarian aid. So please, our hearts and minds go out to them. To the point that has been made by a number of my colleagues, energy security is national security. And while I do support the president's decision not to allow Russian oil to enter into the country any longer, this decision is long overdue, and one that came after pressure coming from Congress, both Democrats and Republicans coming together. The president decided to go ahead on his own and ban that oil. But in his comments today, what we saw were very flippant comments that now we need to turn towards electric vehicles. Never mind, we should be producing our own energy right here in the United States of America. Again, all of the above energy resources at our fingertips, and yet we're not utilizing those resources. Instead, the president's plan to move towards electric vehicles will not be realized anytime soon. We don't have the infrastructure for EVs. And mind you, we're turning from one adversary's energy sources to another adversary's energy sources, because many of the rare earth minerals and components that go into electric vehicles are mined and manufactured by China. So we're turning from Russia now to China. And add in now the Iran nuclear talks that are going on, being brokered by Russians between Iran and the United States. And the United States is willing to lift sanctions on Iranian oil in order to fill the gap in the United States. I have yet to understand this president's foreign policy when we are enabling our near-peer adversaries and ratcheting down on our own energy independence right here in the United States.
I'll just add two points. First, I mean, Chuck Schumer's heartless. We all know that we need to do Ukrainian aid. What's he want to do? He holds it up. We could do a separate bill right now, just on Ukrainian aid, and it would pass overwhelmingly today, yesterday. We would all been willing to come in over the weekend after we talked to President Zelensky, come in here and get something done. But he sits here and he holds a big liberal spending bill hostage over this Ukraine aid. It makes no sense and it makes you mad. Second, I'm from Florida. We have a lot of people from Venezuela and Florida. You know, some of those people, they've lost their loved ones because of Maduro and Chavez. Some can't go back to their country. They're in this country struggling to make ends meet because they can't go back to their country. Millions of people have had to flee Venezuela to go to Colombia and other countries just to survive. And the Biden administration goes and meets with this illegitimate government to talk about importing their oil. That is completely wrong, and it's heartless to all the individuals that Maduro has impacted.
Leader McConnell.
Yeah.
Can you clarify whether these loan guarantees that you mentioned are intended to help Poland and other NATO allies purchase F-16s to backfill any donations of Soviet-era aircraft to Ukraine? And if not, is there some other?
Yeah, I think I've just heard, as you may have, the Poles have decided to transfer the MiGs to Ukraine. That's excellent. We need to provide them loan guarantees and assurance that they will be able to get a way to backfill the loss of those MiGs for their own security. That's my understanding as to where we're headed.
So that will be in the omnibus or in the...
It's my expectation, yeah.
Leader McConnell, you've been pushing for a more assertive efforts by the Biden administration in dealing with Ukraine. Do you believe that there should be some sort of no-fly zone imposed to try to protect innocent lives there?
Not by American aircraft. There are a number of ways to potentially have an impact in the sky. Stingers, drones, and airplanes. And we just discussed the possibility of getting these Russian-era MiGs out of Poland and into Ukraine. I think all of those have an impact, but I don't think any NATO country, certainly not ours, is prepared to directly engage with the Russians over Ukraine.
On oil production, many of lots of more production would take a long time to come online. I know Secretary Granholm told members in a post-war briefing that she's asked oil companies to increase their production of available leases that are already being used. So what is this just a political response to the oil issue and the rising gas prices?
Well, I hate to repeat absolutely everything every one of us has said, but the policy from the beginning has been completely wrong-headed. We were exporting oil in 2019. We were energy independent in 2019. Just the fact that it may take a little while to ramp up is no reason to not do it. We need to be ramping up. We need to be ramping up right now.